Hey guys, it is Dom here. I just had the wonderful privilege and pleasure of chatting to Eric Bachmann from Archers of Loaf about their return, memories in the UK, potential of touring, obviously new record as well. So there's a lot of good stuff coming for the Archers of Loaf and Archers of Loaf fans. So please do check this out, give it a listen, and thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks very much. Take it easy. Eric, it's a pleasure to sit down with you today. Obviously, we're over in the UK. Arch of Loaf has a cult following over here and obviously a great following worldwide. And I wanted to ask you, first off, before we talk about the new material you're bringing out, a couple of definitions. Now, people's definitions of success change. It changes per person. And obviously you've had a great degree of success in the music industry and across platforms. So how do you define success as a person and as an artist if they're two different things?
Well, they're probably not different things. I mean, I view myself as a person and an artist. I used to be reticent to say artist because it felt pretentious, but now I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just that's a great question because I don't really think of things that way in terms of success. So I guess I feel like being able to do what you want to do and get paid for it is success. And I feel successful that way, but I also feel like it's a real challenge. So sometimes it doesn't feel successful at all when I use those parameters, when I use that definition.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But
Yeah.
but now it's going good, and now it's good, and I feel grateful. I feel like success doesn't have anything to do with happiness, though, in a weird way. I want to say that. Like I don't even know if happiness is a thing. I just try to stay even, and I'm
Okay.
never really. I'm happy is just one of those words you find on Instagram and look at this. It's not really a thing.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that you're sad. It's just that you're just trying to struggle and make your thing work and do what you want to do for a living.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and obviously you've been able to do that, and that's fantastic. Given how much work you've put into it as well. The second sort of phrase I wanted to ask, because again, Archers of Loaf has such a legacy, and that's the other term I was going to ask you about. Do you pay attention much to the legacy of what you've achieved as a musician? Does it bother you? Do you think about it? And tell me how you would define that word legacy.
I find that I don't think about it very much. I find that when I do start thinking about it, it starts to feel less rewarding.
Right.
It starts to feel like you're all of a sudden, because that definition of legacy requires other people to have an opinion about it. And when you start creating from opinion, from valuing other people's opinions as much, it just gets, it just gets the it's not as rewarding to do. I think legacy is something that other people put on you. I don't really have the idea of it. I like being told I'm good at what I do. I'm not going to bullshit about that, but
Yeah.
even if I'm not, I don't know, I do my best, but I don't, I think that legacy is really other people's perceptions of you and the world's perceptions of you. I don't have a legacy. I mean, I'm going to die and then it won't matter. So, what I think. So, but I do like being appreciated for all the work and being appreciated for all the music and what have you. So I don't want to sound full of shit either. Like I'm grateful that you're saying that stuff. I don't know if it's true or not, but
Well, again, as a listener, I guess you kind of, I have a different perception, which is why it's one of the joys of doing this and getting to talk to you about it. Because again, my perception is going to be different to yours, and I think that before we talk about the new stuff, I want to sort of touch on when you guys came out and when you were doing Icky Metal and that kind of time in your life. How would you say you've changed and developed as a person since that time? What have you learned about yourself since the early days of Archers of Loaf and what you were able to achieve? All the, obviously now all the streams, but back then you had a lot of label offers and things like that. So what have you learned about yourself? How would you say you've changed and developed as a person since that time?
There's so many things. It'd be too long for one interview, but it's so much. I didn't even, at that age, I didn't even know what I wanted to do with music. I just enjoyed the feeling of playing loud and screaming in a microphone and being in a band. I enjoyed that, and I had no intention at that time of pursuing it as a career or whatever, for lack of a better term, or as a way to make a living. So for me, now I almost intentionally try to capture that feeling constantly of where it didn't matter. You just didn't care, because that's when you really feel connected to whatever it is you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm a lot better at managing my anger than I was back then.
Okay.
Although the music was quite therapeutic for that. I mean, that music sounds angry because I was an angry little dude, you know, or big dude, but skinny dude, but tall dude. But I mean, I'm 52 now, so there's just a mountain of stuff you've learned. You know, I wasn't capable of being in relationships back then. I don't want to get too heavy on I don't know. Talk about
feel free, man.
Yeah, but it's just there's so much that you know, I would never have had the capacity back then to have a child or have a relationship, a marriage. I wouldn't have been able to do any of that stuff. And I didn't do that stuff. I would be in a relationship for a year and it'd go away. I'd be in a relationship for a year to go away. I dated somebody for 7 years, but it was because they were in medical school and I was doing this. So it was really just, we'd get together twice a year, you know. It was so hard to do that. And I hate to say it, I miss having that freedom, that the responsibility that I have now that I wouldn't have been able to do back then. Man, I wish I could just get in a car and tour all the time and write records. I wish I could do that, but I can't do that now because I have responsibilities. I have a kid and I have a family and, you know, all that stuff. So the amount that I've learned though is so it's so vast. I do feel like I made some good decisions. You know, all you talk about the label offers, you know, I didn't realize it at the time, but my reticence to sort of have some big label pay a lot of money to get us off of the smaller label and then have to pay back that big label and obviously inevitably be dropped, that probably would have crushed any chances of me to have a career that I have now. So making that decision back then, which some people may have said, oh, you get one chance. Like, no, you don't. You get more than one chance. You can do, if you know what you want to do and you know you're going to do it your whole life, you get more than one chance, you know. And the chance that you're getting out of the gate, like in terms of that, was bullshit. It wasn't a good opportunity, you know. So I feel good about that decision, and I try to still make smart decisions that way on who I choose to work with to put out my records and stuff. But so it's a great question. It's a massive. You could write a book about that. You know, it's a massive.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I think what you've done and the way that you've, at least my perception again, is that, you know, the way you've approached making music and creating is quite a motivational thing. I do a lot of work with young people, so that's where they talk to me a lot about, oh, I want to be, you know, I'm never going to be as successful as Eric from Archers of Loaf. I'm never going to have that legacy. So that's where those questions come from. And I guess from that, what would be, you know, like, what's one thing that you kind of know now, or one or two things in the spirit of maybe inspiring some younger people that look back on what you've done? One or two things that you know now that you kind of wish you knew then that you've really benefited from, or not, you know?
Well, a lot of it is confidence, and a lot of it is, I don't mean overconfidence. I mean knowing what you want. Like if you're talking to a 17-year-old kid and they know what they want to do, whether it be acting or music or painting or whatever, writing novels, whatever it is, if they want to do it and they're young, you know, you don't question it. You got to go like hell. You can go. You have to go to the right area. Like you're not going to be in a successful band if you're living in, you know, Hull, England, probably. You know what I mean? You're probably going to need to move to London or move somewhere where stuff's happening, or move to New York, or move to, you know, Los Angeles, or you need to go where the action is, you know, no matter what you want to do, you got to do that. But I would just not be afraid of what your brain is telling you to do. I have a 5-year-old, and I remember the way I was raised, and when I started showing interest in music and entertaining and performing, and when I started showing an interest in that, it was just shut down. It was just like, don't do that. And I feel like any things that hindered me from doing this or doing what I wanted to do, all the lack of confidence, like all my afraid to sort of meet people that could help you, people that were in bands that you admired, you just were too shy to meet them because you felt like an imposter. All that stuff I learned from my upbringing, I wish that I had a parent or somebody like you or whoever telling me like, fuck that, do it, go, you do it. You know, when you look at people that are hyper successful and you look at their parents, oftentimes you see like, well, yeah, you know, like Robert De Niro's dad was a painter, and they were in theater, and they just supported the heck out of him. You know, if you have that support, you can pretty much do it. You know.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Yeah, really, really interesting point. And I guess it comes down to that confidence of just going out and trying things and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what I kind of heard there. Yeah.
It's dangerous advice because people do that sometimes and then they don't do well, you know. So it's dangerous advice, but
true.
But I think, you know, Stephen Fry said this once. He's one of my favorite comedians.
Yeah.
And I know you know who he is, but he was talking about you might as well do that, because if you buy into the lie, that screws you over anyway in the long term. Like if you do the corporate thing and you just do the thing that's safe and you do that, you end up being like 60 and it's like, well, my stock portfolio just crashed and now I had this miserable life, and my wife and I are divorcing and my kids think I'm a jackass, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work anyway, you know.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. It's a really good point. You know, I appreciate your honesty there. I do want to kind of move on because I know you've got a bunch of interviews to do, but I want to talk about the new material as well. Obviously, so I'm going to ask you about an extra track from the record that is a favorite of mine in a minute. But what people can hear from Reason to Decline is Screaming Undercover. You bought that out. And that's, you know, been out in the public consciousness, whatever, for a while now. To what degree is that a great indication of what people can hear, in your own words, you know, on Reason in Decline? To what extent is that a good representation of what you're trying to achieve with the record?
I think the record's pretty balanced. I think there's some mellower stuff in that. I think that's probably one of the more up-tempo ones on there, although there's other up-tempo ones too. It's not all that tempo and all that energy. That's the third song I think on the record, so it sort of ramps up to that and then it kind of settles down after that side and then it kind of ramps up again. So I think it's a good paced, a well-paced album where it's not too much slow, too much fast. If anything, it does tend to be more faster songs, but not all of them are that sort of angry and punk, straightforward sort of punk aesthetic. There's actually a couple mellow songs on there. The last song's just a piano song with all this kind of noise, experimental stuff going on around it. I wouldn't even say experimental, but just sort of guitar noise going on around it. And that's the last song. And then there's a song called Amy that's kind of a quieter,
beautiful,
picky song. That's not, I mean, some Archers fans aren't going to want to hear that. Some will, you know, but you just kind of make what you feel compelled to make. And you know, I think there's a lot of politics on the record. There's a lot of the leadership at the time, and it's still an issue because the leadership at the time is really a symptom of a lack of sort of media journalistic responsibility in the country. And that whole response, there's a lot of anger towards the Trump administration and towards the media that creates that on the record. So we were trying to, with songs like Amy and other songs, we were trying to make sure there are also love songs on here too, or there's also just sort of regular sad songs that kind of create a mood, and that's all they're trying to do. And there's different things like that too. So it's not all just like bombast, I hate Donald Trump. It's that, but it's more than that too.
Yeah. And again, appreciate that reflection. You know, obviously people are going to be very excited to hear the record. When I was listening to it, and again, this is more of a higher energy one, I would suppose, but In the Surface Noise kind of grabbed me personally, and as a track that people haven't yet heard yet, that people will be able to hear in not a very long time away from now. What could you talk me through kind of the inspirations behind that one? Because that really grabbed me, and obviously, you know, again, in your own words rather than my interpretation of it. Can I get your thoughts on it, please?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite song on the record is Human.
Yeah.
My second favorite is probably In the Surface Noise.
Yeah.
And I think the very first song that I wrote for the record was Screaming Undercover. And that was the one I had a difficult time sort of writing from the Archers of Loaf perspective. I was having a hard time writing Archers of Loaf songs when we were kind of thinking about doing a new record. I was like, well, let's try. And I couldn't write anything. I couldn't find the voice. I couldn't find the perspective to write from. When that happened, when I got that song out, I was like, okay, there it is. And the one after that was Screaming Undercover. And I felt like I wrote it on an acoustic guitar, so I felt like it had a very sort of a Heartlandy kind of vibe to it, almost like Arlo Guthrie-ish kind of that kind of, it just had the anthemic American thing that Americans can do. I mean, you can hear it in there. So I felt like that was a kind of thing that we hadn't done as a band. I mean, obviously people have done that before, but we hadn't done it as a band, and I thought it'd be interesting for us to try something like that. And I like the simplicity, nothing simple, I suppose, but I like the straightforwardness. There's not too many words. It's just kind of easy. The words don't get in the way of the energy. It's more about energy. But I do think that there are lyrics in there that are going to make people go, "What's he talking about?" Is he saying it's okay to riot? Like, what are you saying? And that's what that's what I want you to think about.
Yeah.
Obviously, politically, I'm on the side of like Black Lives Matter, and I'm more of a progressive person. And for me, it's anger towards, the fact that police officers shoot far more African Americans than they do anybody else. That's a fucking problem. And then when you hear people complain about, like, well, why are they rioting? What? Yeah. It's absurd. Of course, that's exactly what they should be doing, in my opinion. So, but people think you're saying the opposite. People think you're supporting, like, are you saying that the Capitol riots were good? And you're like, no, I'm saying the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So it's creating that conversation. That's the point.
Yeah. So it's down to people's interpretation, and again, like you just said, creating that conversation. You want to inspire listeners, people that have listened to you for a long time, new listeners that might be first discovering you, to have a conversation and to talk. Yeah.
Even if you're on the wrong side of it, like I would even argue, like, it's interpretation. Yeah, you can interpret it wrong if you think that I'm supporting the people that went into the Capitol and arguing that the election was rigged or whatever. That's ridiculous, But some people, I guess they could hear that way. But to me, that's what I'm raging against, really. But I didn't feel like, as somebody that's singing songs about the world they live in, that it was almost irresponsible not to say something about it,
100%. Yeah. To have, and again, to inspire that, to have a voice and inspire that conversation. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. A couple more questions then, Eric. More promo questions. Obviously, again, I mentioned at the beginning, fans in the UK, people that have listened to you and maybe had the fortune of seeing you over the years. What is your message to Archers fans in the UK and the people, I guess, around the world that have supported you through your career and will continue to do so with with the creation of this new record?
Yeah, I'm just grateful, Dom. I mean, I just feel very lucky and very grateful that, I mean, you start a band for very pure reasons. You don't really have ambitions when you start. Like when the Archers started in 1990, we just were going to do it for a while,
Yeah.
And we had no intentions of doing it past that. I was going to go back to school. I didn't know what I was going to do, or go work or do something. I don't know what I was going to do. I mean, I know what I wanted to do, but like your previous question, I was just kind of told, "Oh, you can't do that. That's a pipe dream. That's not realistic." If I had been told it was realistic, I probably would have done better. I probably would have done different things. But here we are, and I feel just grateful because when we stopped in 1997, we just thought, okay, well, that was fun. That was, and in ways it wasn't fun, but that was an experience I feel glad I had.
Yeah.
And now it's over. And so I knew I was going to keep doing music, because at that point I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this, whatever I need. I just want to keep doing it, And so when 2011 came, Sean, our manager, had said, I think I can get Merge to reissue these. Yeah. When he said that, I thought, okay, well, and he asked, would you tour to promote that reissue? I was like, yeah, I think I would, because it's been so long and I hadn't played those songs in forever and I'm not sick of them anymore. And so when you do that, you're kind of taking a risk. You're like, oh man, people probably don't. The moment's over, maybe, So when people, like you're saying, people that are still interested in hearing it, or if it's cultish or whatever it is, that people are wanting to hear a new record and wanting to come see it if we play live, and I just feel so grateful. I didn't have any idea that was something we were going to be fortunate enough to experience again.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you, man. Like I say, I think it's great that this record's like I say, I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to have that that legacy we talked about, where you've got all these songs that people have loved for years, and then there's a whole new audience out there as well that are going to dig what you're doing. So I think it's awesome. Last question then. I'm going to sort of hand the floor over to you. Do you feel like there's anything we've missed? Is there anything you'd like to plug? Is there anything you want to promote outside of the band, inside the band, that you feel like people should know about?
I always feel grateful for the spot that we get. I always feel weird about when people ask that to do that. I don't know I have anything else to promote. I just feel like I just feel always so, so awkward that way.
Well, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay.
I apologize. But I guess to finish off then, obviously there is the new record out there. It's coming out. Obviously it's an exciting time. What about UK tour? Is that possible? You mentioned obviously touring. You've got a different relationship with touring now. Is there any chance we'll see you guys over here at some point?
I mean, I would love to. I think we have to navigate. It's like herding cats because Matt, our bass player, plays in Band of Horses. I do my thing, solo stuff as well.
Yeah.
I guess I should promote that, but I do my solo stuff, and then I guess there's Mark, and Mark has a full-time job, and EJ's a lawyer. He's a full-time job, so it's all hard to the logistics are really difficult. If we can find a week, we'll do a week.
Yeah.
Where everybody can get off work. But there's talk of Europe and England. There's talk of it. It would be the later half of next year because the album will come out in October. We'll tour in the US a little bit.
Yeah.
Over the holidays, and then after that, hopefully, in like March, April, May, we would think about going overseas. But at this moment, it's up in the air, and it really would be about what our schedules are.
Yeah.
So there's hope. I'd say 50-50 at this moment.
Yeah,
and we want to. In terms of our desire, we definitely would love to play. We love playing in England and in Europe. So
yeah. Do you have any specific memories? You mentioned a couple of, obviously London. People don't always talk about Hull, for example. Have you got any lovely memories in Hull?
No.
In the UK rather. Not many people do go to Hull, but have you got any memories in the UK that you want to share?
Well, I've toured a lot there through other things. I played in Nico Case's band for years, and we had a lot of great shows in England.
Yeah.
There's a church she played at one time that was amazing. Trinity, is that a thing?
Yeah, there's a few. There's like there's one in Leeds. I think there's one in.
It was in London.
Huddersfield. All right, yeah. There's a couple.
Okay, I'm sure there's more than a couple, but yeah. What do you guys have? Churches in England, of course, but yeah, so those are good memories. I feel like the Archers always had great shows at the Garage.
Yeah, in London, yeah.
Yeah, we loved playing there, and I think we had a couple at Leeds. We would play in Leeds, and we played in Bristol a couple times. I mean, we had good tours in England. We always did okay there, And then in Glasgow, we always played King Tut's.
Yeah, great.
And I was friends with the Delgados from there, so I did some touring with them.
Nice.
Anyway, so there's a somewhat of a connection with England and the Archers and me in general, but I don't know what it is. I just I like rain, man. I like rain. I like cold weather. I like it. I like it there. I like it. I live in Athens, Georgia, man, and it's so hot and humid here. I miss.
Yeah.
Like COVID was a real pain because I couldn't do any touring. You couldn't go to England. You couldn't go to Europe. You couldn't go anywhere. So
yeah,
even in the US. So.
Yeah, well, I'm like I say, I'm hoping we'll see you over here. I'm in Yorkshire, so yeah, I would love to see you up in the cold north for sure, and cold and miserable rainy north. But we love it, to be fair, just like you say.
I do, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, I know you've got other things to do, so I could talk to you for ages. But thank you so much for your time and making the time for me, and I look forward to catching you down the road.
Thank you, Dom. I appreciate it, man. Have a great day. Thank you, man.
And you too. Take care of yourself.